Happy to have you here. Welcome everybody to another episode of Toggl Academy. So my name is Emilia. I've been hosting these for a while. So if you've been around for the previous editions, I'm not a new face. I'm the community manager here at Toggl Track. And today I'm joined by Jason, who's probably one of the biggest names in the agency coaching, agency know-how, optimizing operations sphere. So happy to have you here. Hi, Jason.
Hey, thanks for having me.
It's our pleasure. So today we have a pretty cool session on 8 systems that agencies need to basically scale and grow and do their best at being top agencies and nailing that business. So maybe I'm going to give the floor to Jason a little bit to expand on what he does, what's his superpowers, and what he's going to be covering today. And after that, I'm going to give the floor fully to Jason for the next around 30 minutes to discuss his topic. And then we're going to have a little Q&A session. However, if you do have any questions, while Jason is delivering his presentation, feel free to just drop it in the chat and we'll get to it either during the presentation or afterwards. So Jason, tell us more about what you're going to be talking about today and what your superpowers are.
Yeah, well, definitely. Well, thanks for having me. So I've been in the agency business for over 25 years. So I got started by accident. I owe everything to Justin Timberlake of NSYNC. I don't know him, but one of my best friends looked like him. So in the 98, I actually created a fake band, website called InShit, and it got popular. I only tell you that because a lot of you are probably in the same boat, not creating fake websites or fake bands, but you knew how to do something cool and someone offered you money for it. And then you started going and going. And then you started going, wow, this business really isn't scalable, or what I envisioned about this business being able to create the freedom I wanted and the money I wanted, it really kind of capped off because I've gone through it. And I'll go through a little bit more on that story. But I created my first agency in 99. That agency actually grew over 8 figures, and we actually eventually sold that in 2011. And then, like many agency people were like, I'm never getting in this business ever again. I want to forget everything about agency, because there was a lot of hard things, but there was a lot of amazing things as well, right? So I'm not going to paint sunshine and rainbows picture. But then I started helping agency owners by accident, because a lot of people are like, how'd you work with Lotus Cars and Hitachi and AT&T, and how'd you sell? And I started putting together a podcast. It's called the Smart Agency Masterclass. So make sure you check it out. We've been doing a podcast for the past 9 years, interviewing the best agency owners all over the world. And then about 3 years ago, we started another agency where we've been buying agencies up. So I'll give you a lot of expertise on that. We bought 10 agencies in the past 3 years, and we're a little over 30 million in revenue on top line. And just outside, I live in Durango, Colorado. I love climbing mountains and doing everything adventurous. And I'm a student pilot doing my next adventure, learning how to fly. So, but let's kind of talk about, let's see if I can go to the first slide. How do I hit the share?
Yeah, so let me just add your slides to the screen and I'll step away. So let's go to that bit of the academy where basically I step away and I give you the floor and you do what you know how to do best.
Awesome.
So as I mentioned, I'm gonna leave the floor for the next half an hour for Jason to deliver his presentation, and then we're gonna come back with the questions later. And also, anybody, if you have to run, if you cannot stay for the full session, don't worry. We're gonna send out recordings to everybody who signed up for the session, so no stress there. Okay, the floor is yours, and I'm excited to hear what you have to say.
Awesome. And I'll rock and roll through this content really quick for you guys so we can get to the Q&A and we can answer the questions that you really have. What I realized was there are 8 systems that, when I was looking back over the first agency, that really made all the difference. And these are what I've walked thousands of agency owners through on figuring out what do they actually need to do in the right amount of time. The first one was really kind of getting clarity. Remember, I was an accidental agency owner. I knew how to do something cool. So I created websites and I started designing websites for people, but I really didn't know who I wanted to go after. I didn't know what I wanted to do. And I got to a point where we were around the 2 million mark. And I was coming home every night, just completely depressed. And my wife was like, "What's going on?" I was like, "Man, I just don't like what I'm doing anymore. I just don't know what's the game plan. My clients are constantly beating me up. The agency's making more money, but I was making less." And she was like, "Why don't you just quit and go get a job?" And I thought about it for a second. I was like, "Oh my God." I was like, that was the ultimate failure. And then I was like, well, maybe I'm not supposed to be running an agency. Maybe I need to go get a job. And so I started interviewing, and I interviewed with a small company called NASCAR. And they asked me, what do I love doing? And what do I never want to do ever again? And I went home because I couldn't answer that in front of them because I was doing so much. And a lot of you may be going through the same thing right now, or maybe you've gone through it. And I couldn't answer it. And so what I want you guys to do, and you can do this exercise later on, but I want you to get a sheet of paper out. And I want you to put your fist over the sheet of paper and draw a circle around your fist. And so it should be a circle on a page. And then for about a half hour, I want you to spend, what is all the stuff you hate doing? And I want you to write that outside the circle, okay? It could be managing clients, selling deals, doing follow-up, managing the team, whatever it is. Write down all the things and spend a lot of time, spend at least 30 minutes writing down all the stuff you don't ever want to do ever again. Then once you do that, through a process of elimination, what are the things you love doing that you really gives you energy, right? Gives you energy for running the agency. And I want you to put that inside the circle. Could be, I love working with clients in automotive that are innovative. I love adding color to sales pitches. I love coaching and mentoring my leadership team. I love doing whatever it is. Put that in there. And then what you're going to start doing is you're going to have clarity of what you need to do. Now, you're not going to know how to do this stuff yet, but you're starting to focus on and painting the picture. What is all the things I want to get rid of? So I either can say no, delegate, bring someone in, pass it off, whatever it is. And then what are all the things I really want to do? And now you're going to start formulating, what kind of agency do we want to be, right? What kind of services? Like, especially around, there's a lot of agencies right now that are kind of like in a intermediate stage. And I tell them, and they're trying to do everything and everything. Here's one, really what you need to do is get specific on what do you want to do in your agency and what can you do better than anybody else. That's what makes a great agency and very scalable. So what I want you also to do after the exercise of what do we want to do, what services, and this is an easy way to think about it. If you were only going to get paid after you performed and they actually got results, what services and what types of clients would you work with, right? So that would probably eliminate a lot of the people you're working with and a lot of the services because you want to be the best. So once you start having clarity now, and we go, I picked a niche, I picked a service that I can do better than anybody else. Now we need to think about how do we position the agency to not look like a Me Too agency, because there's a lot of agencies out there right now that look like everyone else. Hey, we'll do everything. And, it's kind of like, if I'm having a heart attack, am I going to go to a general practitioner doctor, like he sees everybody and everything? Or am I going to go to a cardiologist? Am I going to go to the best cardiologist out there? I'm going to go to the best. That's the same thing here. Now, how you can position your agency is, and position in a different way. Think about if you're at a conference and I come up to you and I say, hey, Christian, hey, Michael, hey, Jacob, hey, Albert, I'm Jason. I'm the best agency coach in the world. And let me tell you all my accolades. You're going to be like, you're an asshole. I don't want to talk to you anymore because it's all the conversation's about me. You need to change the conversation to make it about them. So I would say, hey, Kristen, hey, Jacob, hey, Albert, hey, Michael, why'd you come to the conference? Tell me a little bit more about your agency. What's your biggest challenge? Where are you trying to go? I'm asking questions. So you're changing and you're trying to position yourself as the trusted advisor rather than the star in their story. Because if you're the star in their story and you're Batman, you're making them Robin. So when you look at your website, when you go to your website, does it say everything about your awards? Does it talk about your people? Does it talk about your process, all this kind of stuff. They don't really care. What your website should say is like, and especially if you go to jasonswenk.com/about, like my website is only about me at the very bottom. I ask questions. I ask questions about, hey, do you struggle with scaling your agency? Do you struggle with getting leads? Do you struggle with scaling or finding the right team? Do you struggle with figuring out what you should actually charge or offering, right? Like I'm asking questions. So you're like, yes, yes, yes. I need to talk to you more. Give you an example about positioning. I was working with a client. He does websites for nonprofits. And he basically went to me, he goes, and I said, what's your elevator pitch? He goes, I do websites for nonprofits. And you may be thinking that's specific and that's good. It is, but it could be so much better. I said, what do your clients, and you got to kind of ask yourself these questions. What do your clients want? And he said, my clients want more members. They want more donors. They want more volunteers. I said, well, why do you want that? Or why do they want that? So they can spread their message. I said, okay, cool. So do you think your elevator pitch would go better this way? If you're a nonprofit and you want more members, donors, and volunteers so you can spread your message, we might be able to help you, right? It's more compelling. It separates them from everyone else. So think about the second system is around positioning once you have clarity. The next is around your offering. I have many agency owners that sell retainers right off the bat, okay? Now, this one particular client was an SEO agency, and they sold $5,000 a month retainers month to month. And I said, why do you sell it month to month? He was like, it's an easier decision for the prospect to say yes. Because if I say for a year, right, it's a longer commitment and it's a harder decision. So what I told him is we need to kind of break up your offering in what I call an offering ladder. And the first thing we need to do is we need to come up with a foot in the door offer, something that is an easier decision, something that would say, hey, based on where you're at right now, what you've told me, like what we do at our agency is we do a clarity call. This is a free call right off the bat. And we say, let us get on a call with you and you can talk to Darby, our agency scale specialist. And we're going to give you a clarity call, figuring out where you're wanting to go, where you're at now, what your biggest challenges. And from there, we'll make a recommendation, right? And if you think about what I just said here, we're positioning ourselves as that trusted advisor rather than you coming to us and saying, I need a website. And be like, cool, I can do a website. When Lotus Cars came to us for a website, I said, why do you need a website? And started asking questions. And we were able to become the agency of record because we changed the conversation. We positioned ourselves as a trusted advisor. But we also positioned the right offering at the right time to make it an easier decision for them to test this out. So what I told this SEO agency to do is, let's do a foot in the door offer. We're going to look at, let's get together and we'll do an SEO blueprint for their company. We're going to charge $2,500 and we're going to do it within an hour time frame with them. And we're going to build it with them. And we're going to say there's 3 possible outcomes. 1, you'll love the plan. You'll go do it yourself. If that's the case, I wish you luck. Number 2, you'll love the plan and you want our help, which this is the most common. Number 3, you don't like the plan. We'll give your money back. So there's nothing for you to lose. What this is doing is eliminating risk for them and making it an easier decision. What it's also doing is allowing you to build trust with them because now they're going to be building something with you, which now they're going to relate to. Okay. So then what we're doing in that foot in the door is we're basically highlighting where they're wanting to go, where they're at now, what's the biggest challenges, and having them point out the big challenge. And then from that big challenge, now we're positioning a project, an engagement. And so with this SEO agency, I said, how long does it take for you to get results? He said, maybe 2 months. I said, cool. Let's do a 3-month engagement. We'll keep the $5,000 a month. So it's $15,000 for the engagement. But the reason why I said added an extra month is I want them to start seeing results. So now you do a foot in the door where you build trust. Now, if they do the foot in the door, they're 20 times more likely to pay you if they have a good engagement. So now in the project or the engagement for the 3 months, now when they start seeing results in month 2, now we can start positioning the retainer. Now the retainer is going to be at over a year, because if your goal, going back to clarity, is to sell your agency one day, well, you need to have longer term contracts. You need to have predictability, for the people buying you. So you want longer term contracts. But also, what we were doing is building trust. So now, rather than charging $5,000 a month for month to month, now he was charging $9,000 a month for 12 months and converting at over 75%. So now, and what I didn't tell you in the beginning, the month to month, remember the 5,000 for month to month, most of the time he was holding on to his clients for 6 months, which is a whole nother issue, right? So he's basically making 30,000 for every client that he signed up for. Now he was making money 2,500 plus the 15,000 plus 9,000 every month for 12 months. That's well over 6 figures per client, right? You can see by changing that offering, you're going to convert faster, you're going to convert more, and you're going to make more because you can charge more, right? And around the offering too, you got to think about your pricing. One of the biggest things agencies do wrong is they're not charging enough. And they're not charging enough because they're not positioned in the right way, and they're not positioned around the offering ladder. If you do this, you can start charging whatever you want because you're building trust, you're showing them results, and then you're going forward and you have that predictability. Make sense? Cool. All right. The next system is around prospecting. Most people's agencies that I see are based on word of mouth or referrals. And I'm going to tell you, referrals aren't scalable. You need to come up with some systems, and not just one system. Right? When I say systems, we need to think about what's an outbound system that I have, right? That can actively reach out to someone. I'm not talking about like someone just, paying a company to bring in leads and that kind of stuff. But like, what's a process around reaching out to the perfect prospects and getting a conversation? What's that outbound strategy? Next is, what's your inbound strategy? Like creating content like this, right? Creating a podcast, creating videos, creating how-to, sharing case stories or case videos, whatever it is, right? Creating content that brings people in. Great example of this is Gary Vaynerchuk with VaynerMedia. He created tons and tons of content and really built his agency up that way. The third one is around strategic partnerships. We did this back in the day, man. We created like the first e-commerce system, the email marketing system, automation, all this kind of stuff. But what our problem is we never separated our teams. And so our clients always came first. So we could never kind of capitalize on that. And when I realized this, I started figuring out what are some strategic partners in technology that have the clients we want that we can make look good and not just be referral partners. And I said, there's 2 out there right now. One was Microsoft around SharePoint. Another was Sitefinity back a long time ago. And I said, let's build these relationships and show people what we can do with their software. And then show Microsoft, show Sitefinity, show these companies what we can do. And it built a great channel. So now we have 3 channels. We have outbound, inbound, and strategic partnerships. If you had to pick one right now, do outbound because you can control it. You don't have to wait. So my thing is doing outbound, strategic relationships, and inbound, because inbound takes the longest. Like if you create a podcast or videos, it takes a lot of momentum to get there. The next is creating a sales system and making sure as an owner, you are not the one doing all of sales. And so I'm going to go through just 2 really quick systems in sales to help you out. One was making sure I'm talking to the right prospect as efficiently and fast as possible. A lot of times you talk to a prospect and maybe you spend hours, days, weeks, months, maybe sometimes years, and you don't have luck with them. And you find out later on that they weren't qualified. If you can remember NBAT, all right, need, budget, authority, and timing, right? Need, budget, authority, and timing. What's their need? Does it match up with my core service? If I was only going to, remember, it goes back to the clarity. If I was only going to get paid on performance, does my need match up? Okay, that's easy, right? Budget. Now, when I'm speaking on stage, a lot of times I ask agencies, I go, how many of you ask for the budget when you're talking to a prospect? About 50% say, I do. Okay. And then out of that 50%, I said, how many of you actually get the budget from the prospect? About 50% of that. So a quarter of you are getting the budget for what the prospect has an idea with. I'm going to give you a way in order to get the budget 99% of the time. So when I ask, all right, Jesse, what is the budget for your project or engagement that you're coming to me for? And they'll say, I don't know. I don't have a budget. Cool. I love working with people that don't have a budget, because then I don't have to worry about money. We can test all kinds of things out. It kind of has to fit your personality, and then I kind of go on, I'm just kind of kidding, not really, but I need to know some kind of range of what you're trying to stay around. And then here's where people mess up, because a lot of people do ask the range, but they start low and go high. People are programmed to remember the first number that they hear. So if you could say, I need to know a range that you're trying to stay around. Is it $1,000? Is it $2,000? Is it $10,000? What is it? They're going to remember 1,000. What we do, and what I did, and what I teach, start high. Are you trying to stay around $1 billion, $1 million, $100,000, $10,000? What's the range? And I start high. I want to shock them. They'll be like, man, things can be $1 billion. Sure, they can. Depends on what you want. And I'm setting my expertise up here because I'm leading with that. And then they'll tell you. The next is authority. The easiest way to get if they're the authority or not is asking this question. All right, Bob, based on what you told me, what you want in this engagement, what's the overall business objective for the overall business in the next year? And they'll be like, I don't know. If they say, I don't know, they're not the decision maker. They're not the authority. Be like, well, who would know? Oh, that's Regina. Cool. Can we get Regina on the call so we can chat? There's a couple questions I have for her. Cool. Easy way to get. And then the last part is timing. If the timing, I have a motto, there's no such thing as a bad agency client. There's only a bad prospect or a bad process. And most of the time they're a bad prospect. So if they want something, if they're like Darth Vader and they want the Death Star website tomorrow, and you know it's going to take 3 months, timing's not going to work out. Pass on that prospect. Pass them to your worst competition. Now, once you qualify them, there's 3 questions I always ask. I ask them, what is the biggest issue with getting what you want right now? What's the biggest issue? And have them, and basically you need to kind of help them identify that. So they may be like, well, my biggest issue right now is we don't have any leads and we're relying on word of mouth. Cool. Okay. So the next of the 3 I's, biggest issue, what's the impact? So what's the impact that the issue is causing you? Or what's the impact if we fix this issue? Now, it's important for them to come up with a number, and you help them come up with a number, not for you to say, hey, I can get you this amount of leads and you're going to make $1 million more. Well, they're not going to believe it. But if you help them get there, they're going to believe it more. And then the last question of the 3 I's is, how important is that to you? So your biggest issue is around lead generation. You told me it's costing you over $1 million a month and it's very important to you. Did I get that right? Yep, I do. So now this will help you with your follow-up strategy later on in the sales process, because when they ghost you, which people do, you can say, hey, I haven't heard from you in a while, Michael. I perceive or I presume that you solved that $1 million lead generation problem. Oh, no, you didn't? Cool. Well, you want to talk more? Is it important to you? Right? So it's easy way. I'm also going to give you one other bonus tip in the sales system. Never send the proposal ahead of time. Always make sure you review the proposal with them. All right. So in delivery, let's talk about the delivery system, right? There's lots of agencies that are really good at attracting leads. They're good at converting, but then they suck at delivering results. One of the things that I just want to point out, and there's in these 8 systems, I'm going very high level. If you want more information, make sure you go to agencymastery360.com, and there's tons of information and thousands of episodes and all that kind of stuff there to go deeper into the systems, because obviously we only have a limited time. So what I want to talk about is kind of your onboarding process. So when you actually sign up a client, how are you onboarding them? Do you just send them an email? One of the things that we do when we onboard a new client, I always send a personalized video. Hey, Jacob, I'm really glad that you joined Agency Master. You made the right decision joining. I want to give you a couple little pointers to let you know how you can get the most out of the mastermind, how you can get the most out of blank, blank, blank. And if you have any questions, here's my personal cell phone. If you have questions, call me, text me. I'm here for you, right? That goes well above what most people do. So how do you shock and awe them and onboard them where you're providing a really good experience, right? So make sure when you're delivering, you're not just delivering a service, and make sure you also hand off to the team the right way. And one of the things you want to do in delivery is make sure you're protecting your profit leaks. Profit leaks could be we're not charging enough, and we're not charging enough because maybe we're not tracking our time. Maybe we're not managing scope creep, right? And our clients are kind of crushing us on all the requests that they're coming to us. Let me give you a tip on scope creep, okay? Clients come to you and they come to your team. They don't realize that they're beating you up. They're just uneducated on the process, right? And that's kind of your fault. So you need to educate them, or they're going to constantly keep asking for things that they think is in scope, but you need to educate them on what's out of scope. So when they come to you for the little things, right? Like things cost 10 minutes, 15 minutes. A lot of times you just do it. And you do that over and over again, but your clients don't realize that it's out of scope. So I want you to do a $0 change order. So when a client comes to you for something really small, say, hey, I'm more than happy to do this for you. This is actually out of scope. I'm going to send you a $0 change order. It's going to show you what we normally would charge, and it's just going to be zeroed out. I just need you to sign it and send it back to me. So now you're training them, okay? So it's an easy way to control your profit leaks, increase your profit. Because if you go back to my original story, I was telling you our agency was making more money, but our profit was going down because of scope creep and some of the profit leaks. All right, now we're on operations, okay? You should be having, like, one of the things that I had on my list of things I never want to do again was manage projects, manage operations, manage people. Most of you on this call are visionaries. You guys come up with ideas and you creative and all that kind of stuff. So you need to hire the right people. Think about, and you got to kind of be self-aware of what you're really good at and what you're bad at. You're not trying to get better at what you're bad at. You hire for what you're bad at, if that makes sense. And so that's around operations. I think I'm doing good on time. And then the last system is around leadership. I'm going to go over just briefly, what are the 4 or 5 roles of what you should be doing as an agency CEO? Right now, you may be an agency owner, and you need to transform. And there's a big difference when you transform from an owner to a CEO. And I'm almost done. So get your guys' questions ready for us. All right. The first one is setting the vision of the agency and where it's going. It goes back to the clarity, right? Remember, I told you once I knew where we were going, now I need to tell my team. But I want you to picture this. I want you to picture you're on a boat. We're in New York Harbor, and I know where we're going, but my team doesn't know where we're going. My destination is going across the Atlantic and going to Europe, okay? And I tell them I drive the boat for maybe 5 hours. I get tired. I want to get some sleep. And I tell my team, I go, hey, you guys are going to drive the boat. Wake me up if the boat changes course. If any of you have ever driven a boat, you know it changes course all the time. So now they're waking you up every single second. And then you're constant, and you don't tell them where you're going. You just go up and make the course correction. Boom, go back. And it's over and over, up and down, up and down, up and down. Right? If you just told them where you're going, they can make decisions. Right? They can make the decision going, man, I need to get back on the course 030. Right? And just maintain an easterly course. Okay? 030. Easy. If it goes 040, cool. I turn it to the left. If it goes 010, turn it to the right. Okay? I need to give them the power. When you don't, if your team is constantly coming to you to make every single decision or for the big decisions, this is a problem. You haven't given them the direction. Or if they're making decisions and they don't understand where you're going, they're making decisions based on what's better for them rather than what's better for the agency. It's very important. Okay? The next is being the face of the organization. Now, many of you may not want to be that. Or you may be afraid if you're the face of the organization that all your clients are going to want to work with you and not your team. I'm going to debunk this one right now. Gary Vaynerchuk's another, the example I used earlier. I'm going to use him again. I can promise you he is not project managing. He is not doing any strategy for any of his clients. He is the figurehead creating the content that brings in the people that believe in what he believes in. He trains them and they go on that process. Same thing with you. You have to be the face of the organization. You cannot have the brand be the face of the organization because the brand is faceless. So you need to be the face. Number 3, you need to coach and mentor your leadership team, not the whole team, just your leadership team. Help them get to where they need to go. Right? Number 4, need to build key relationships that only you can do. And number 5, you need to understand what are the KPIs? Understand the financials. You don't need to be a whiz person at all the numbers, but understand that. Now, when you achieve these 5 roles, you're going to be the agency CEO, and your agency is going to start scaling faster. There's no limits. Right now, you're throttling everybody. You're the toll booth owner, right? Going one line when there's thousands of lines or however many employees that you have. Now, what I'm going to tell you too is when you achieve these 5 roles, you're going to be completely and utterly depressed. Because you're going to go into existing meetings you used to go into and talk to your existing team. Say, hey, Bill, can I help you with this? No, I'm good. Hey, Kristen, can I go into this? No, I'm good. But what you're going to realize, and it takes you a couple weeks. I always warn my clients about this and my members. It'll take a couple weeks, sometimes a couple months. The agency needs you for the new role, not the things that you used to do. When you do this, now you're going to have complete scale. And you're going to be able to grow your agency to wherever you want it to grow. But you have to have, going back, you have to have a vision and get clarity of where you're going. You have to be positioned in the right way. You have to have the right offering. You have to have a prospecting system, a sales system, a delivery system, operations, and a leadership system. Because what you're also doing is you're building leaders in the organization, but you have to have these systems built in the right way and in the right time. Okay. Does that make sense? Cool. All right. So what questions do you guys have? I think I see the chat. If I'm looking at the right one, I think I went through. Did I go through it quick enough? Make up on time?
Yes, all is good. So I think most of the questions were to do with our a little bit of a late start, but let's give people some time to punch in whatever they want to ask. In the meantime, I do have a couple of questions.
Sure.
And I think somebody asked also if the replay is going to be available. So yes, it will. So for those watching on LinkedIn, it will be available on LinkedIn in the same link. And for those watching on StreamYard, we will send over a link after the stream is over. So no worries there. It will be with you. The deck will also be with you. We will not leave you hanging with no way to rewatch this session. All right, so something I completely loved is when you mentioned that, you should hire for what you're bad at instead of trying to do everything yourself. Just a really good quote, because I feel like we're all kind of guilty of that, because we all started out somewhere, and a lot of us, especially marketers, started at least at some point in their career, were one of some of that one-man band, style operator, and it's you need to make your web, you need to do your SEO, you need to do your sales, and it's well, I can do it myself, right? Why would I pay $1,000 somebody to do it? But I feel like most of us learned the hard way that you probably should be paying somebody $1,000 to do it, because it's actually costing you $10,000 when you're doing it yourself. So a golden quote, loved it. All right, so on to questions. We have somebody, Michael is asking to go over system 3 again. So I'll save my questions. Let's prioritize Michael's.
Yep. So I'll go over really
hear more about system 3.
Yeah, definitely. So the biggest thing is you need to make it an easy decision for someone to engage with you, because if they make it an easy decision, they're going to probably go with you, and you're going to build trust, right? So the first thing you need to do is slice off part of what you're doing now. And a lot of agencies are probably giving away strategy in the very beginning, and they're getting paid on execution, which if you do that, right, you're setting yourself up as an order taker. And you want to position yourself as that trusted advisor. So the way to do this is, what are you doing now? Like if you were going to engage with a client and in the first onboarding meeting, you would kind of go over the initial strategy, like in the first hour, that's what you should charge for. Okay. If you guys want an example of that, just if you go to agencymastery360.com and just click the button on the top, scale now, you'll see kind of our process and go through our process, right? It's like we get someone to give us a little bit of information, like as a little application. Then we jump on a call to do kind of what we call our clarity call, where we're saying, where do you want to go? Where are you now? What's your biggest problem? And then I'll say, hey, Michael, based on what you told me, I really recommend us do an agency blueprint together. What we're going to do is we're going to go through 9 areas, and you're going to kind of evaluate where you're at. And then we're going to give you direction of what you need to do. We're going to give you a blueprint for you to go do. And based on that blueprint, we're going to say there's 3 possible outcomes. You'll love the plan. You go execute it yourself. If that's the case, I wish you luck. Number 2, if I hold up 2 fingers, I need to make sure I don't hold up the middle one, right? Number 2 is the most common. You'll love the plan. You want our help. And then we can talk about that next step, which would be that project. Number 3, you don't like the plan. I give you your money back, so there's nothing for you to lose. And then you take them to that project, which that project is solving that problem that we pointed out, which was that biggest issue for you in the foot in the door. And then that project leads to the next level, which would be the retainer. And that retainer would be something that, helps them build later on. But you got to think now, you're building that trust. They're gonna be like, man, Michael solved all these problems for me. I really need this to continue on. So now you have predictability, you've converted faster, you've converted at a higher percentage, and they're paying you more money. So, it's like, it takes many agency owners many years of hearing this in order to execute it. But when they actually start doing it, they're like, my gosh, I wish I did this years ago. Every single time. I have not seen one agency we've helped. We've helped thousands of agencies. I haven't seen one say this doesn't work for me. So hopefully that helps.
Thank you for commenting on Michael's question. And actually stemming from that, I have a question myself. You keep mentioning trust. And obviously, that is one of the core things when you're doing business with anybody, right? Creating that trust between you and your client. But when it comes to positioning yourself as a trusted advisor, right? Especially if you are just starting out, maybe you're like a young agency, maybe you're even like a freelancer, right? We'll have some freelancers listening to this session as well. So how do you position yourself as a trusted advisor if maybe you don't have those big clients under your belt? Maybe you don't have 10 years of experience. Maybe you actually do know what you're doing, but you simply not necessarily have the scale to show it. So how do you go around it then?
Well, you give away your best stuff for free, not just your services, right? But your advice. It goes back to the inbound channel that I talked about in prospecting, right? Most people try to put out very generic stuff, right? How to do this. And they don't want to give away all their secrets, right? Like with the offering ladder. For example, I told you guys the golden goose to make all the difference for you. If I only said, I'm only going to tell you about how to position your project, and I only gave you a little part, right? You're going to be you're going to already assume that that's Jason's best stuff. And they'd be like, well, that didn't really work. Or for example, one of the best contents that we've put out is I told you guys this, the budget buster, how to get the prospect's budget. What information can you put out that the client can use right away and get success without exchanging anything in return? And they'll be like, oh my God, if any of you guys go out and you guys weren't able to get the budget, and then You used the budget buster, and then realized, wow, my prospect had a budget of 100,000 and I was going to sell them a $10,000 website, but I can sell it at 100,000. You made 10 times more just by a 2-minute video you watched. You're going to trust me, and you're going to think everything I say is going to be right. So that's what you want to do. Is the building trust is over time. Many people that engage in our mastery or buy the agency playbook or any of that, I look at the comments, because I always have 2 questions after people engage with us. Why did you invest? And what are you most excited about learning about? Most of the time, people are like, I've been listening to your podcast for the past 3 years. That's a huge moat, right? Or been watching your content for years and years, right? It's like, you be patient, give away your best stuff. Like, our whole goal, like our clarity goal, our vision is to create a resource I wish I had when I was running the first agency. So everything we do is pointed around that North Star. And so that's the best way to build trust, is give away the best stuff. Don't hold back.
And when it comes to giving away the best stuff, we kind of like, you spoke about creating content, right? As one of like the best ways to basically drive inbound sales, or like inbound, like, leads. But it also sort of, good content takes a lot of time, a lot of effort. And I feel like that's why most people do produce generic stuff, because that's like easy, like, ask ChatGPT to write it, like, and then like, ChatGPT makes you like a posting schedule, and then like you're just putting out random stuff. But if you are like a solopreneur, or maybe you do have a small agency of 3-4 people, it can almost feel like there's no time to do that kind of thing, like, why out of like, when it comes to like, should I spend more time on my client or landing a new client, or should I actually write like a big blog post? Most people will probably gravitate towards the client, right? It is a short-term kind of like strategy, like, instead of like looking at longer term things. So like, how would you go around that? Like, limited time, or like limited amount of hands, or like hours. How do you go around creating content? Who should be doing it? How much time should be dedicated to it? Should you outsource it? Can you outsource it?
Yeah. It's all about priorities, right? And it's kind of the mindset around, you're either trying to maintain or just double. And that's actually harder than if you started, and if you think about, like, if you're trying to double or just maintain, you have thousands of options to choose from, which makes it very harder. But if you thought about, how do I 5x, 10x, 20x my business, there's less options in there. And it makes you think more longer term of what you need to do. And even if you don't get the 20x, maybe you 10x it. I'd be happy. Versus if you shoot your goals at 2x. And here's a telltale sign if you're not charging enough. I hear many agency owners go, I don't have time. I'm busy. I'm too busy. That's a telltale sign you're not charging enough. If you charged more, see how all this stems out, right? Think about the playbook I just walked you through, the 8 systems. If you know who you're going after and who could pay the fees that you want to charge for, that you can deliver, now you can position in the right way, now you can charge more. If you can charge more, now you can bring on better people to take away more of the stuff that you should not be doing, right? And if you could take away more of the stuff you shouldn't be doing, you concentrate on more of the $1,000 tasks, the more $10,000 tasks. Right now, a buddy of mine, Dan Martelli, wrote a cool book. All of you should check it out. It's called Buy Back Your Time. It's around the principle, I think, of around one of my coaches, Todd Herman, talked about a lot of us are doing $10 tasks, $1 tasks, right? Like if you looked at your calendar for the last 2 weeks, you took a screenshot of it and you go, shit, man, like I was doing like sending out invoices, like I was doing collections, I was doing all this, like it's going to be a roller coaster, right? And the roller coaster for agencies is this: you sell a deal and then you're like, oh shit, I need to deliver it. So then you take your foot off the sales part and then you start trying to deliver. And then the sales goes down. Then you're in a constant roller coaster, up and down, up and down, up and down, versus creating the system and the teams to build on it. So everything just keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And eventually it'll get bigger than you, which is perfect, right? Or some of the team that you have, which then you bring on people. Like I have many of our members and clients that bring in CEOs after you get to a certain point, right? They've just reached their cap that they're comfortable with. Perfect. Now they just get a fast check and they only do the stuff that they love. So that's how you guys can scale. That's how I want you guys thinking.
And when it comes to scaling and charging more, that also requires confidence, like we kind of talked about anchoring, like saying the big number first, right? And I feel like, again, like so many of us are guilty of undercharging because it's almost like it's more comfortable in many ways, like it's almost like I'm going to say a lower price than like, maybe they're going to like choose me over a competitor because I'm like, quoting this lower price. So like, how do you get that confidence to say the bigger number or maybe increase your actual pricing? Like maybe you can actually see that like, you're running out of like time to deal with all of your clients. So how do you gather that confidence to actually say the bigger number?
Well, you got to realize the value that you deliver, right? Like we would charge hundreds of thousands of dollars for a website back in the day. And it only cost us maybe 10 or 15K in our cost, right? So huge profit margins. I remember a project manager coming to me, was like, her name was Lisa. And she goes, Jason, how do you sleep at night? Like you're ripping off your clients. Like you're charging hundreds of thousands of dollars and we're only cost us like $10,000 to deliver it. Like, how do you sleep? I was like, oh, really good. But what I explained to her was, you don't understand the value that Lotus Cars is getting from this website. They're going to be able to make millions and millions of dollars because now we're capturing information of people that are interested in this new car. We're building a campaign to do like this. Like they're making millions. Like I understood that. My business partner at the time, a lot of times when he would quote a price, and there's some people that just are bad at sales. And I really don't even look at it as sales. It's you're helping, right? Like you're consulting. But I remember one time we were sitting at a presentation and I was like, hey, you brought it in. Hey, you take it start to finish. And he gets to the end. And a lot of you may do this, and hopefully this stops you from doing it and be like, all right, we're going to design X, Y, and Z. And it's 200,000. And let me tell you why it's 200,000 and blah, 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 throwing up on it. And I was like, first I went to him. I said, Kirby, was that a question about when you were telling them the price? And then the other was like, say the price and shut up. The person that talks next loses. Like if they ask for clarification of why it's 200,000, then we can start going into, what they're going to get, in value and that kind of stuff. But don't just start trying to like you saw their confidence go way down because his confidence was way down. And obviously we didn't win the deal, and I never let him to go into a presentation ever again. So.
Cool. All right. So unless we have more questions, which I think we don't, I think we're good to wrap it up. So this was super great and useful. Thank you so much, Jason, for spending your time and coming in to share your knowledge and your experience. And yeah, we really appreciate it. And thanks everybody who joined the session and everybody who will be joining the session later, whenever you choose to watch it, whenever it's comfortable for you. And yeah, so Toggl Academy will continue on. We will have another episode airing in like around a month's time. So just keep an eye out for updates on our LinkedIn page or like other social media pages or our newsletters. So that will be up there as well. And as I mentioned, the replay of this episode will be available on LinkedIn and as well on basically on our blog as well. That's like a new thing. I don't think I covered it, but we do have all of the replays on Toggl blog. So it will be available on Toggl blog as well and via email. So if you left your email, we will be sending it to you. So cool. Thanks everybody. Thanks, Jason. And hope to have you again joining us for Toggl Academy.